For my own introduction, my name is Daniel. I'm a Chicago-based fitness photographer. I have a BA in photography from Columbia College just down the street, and I've been practicing photography for over 8 years. My work focuses on the reality of fitness and wellness, showing a diverse range of talent in a style that makes the audience feel a sense of intensity, movement, and most importantly, fun. I don't want to be this super try-hard, serious guy. I want my work to connect with people in a way that feels real, genuine, and authentic. My journey in fitness content began in 2021 when I decided to take a healthier lifestyle in an effort to improve my own mental health. After fully immersing myself in the culture of fitness, I pivoted my entire business into that industry. And I've had the opportunity to work with clients including the Chicago Bulls, UFC Gym, Studio 3, and a myriad of local trainers that contribute to Chicago's incredibly talented and supportive community. So not only do I shoot fitness, I live fitness. And that's a really important thing to consider when you're choosing a niche or a specialization. You have to shoot something that you truly believe in and you kind of participate in outside of just work. So I'm not just in the gym when I'm shooting. I'm in the gym in my own time, and I love it. I use it as a recreational outlet. If you're shooting, let's say, cars, right? You probably want to go to car meets. You probably want to work on cars or collect cars or just talk shop about cars. Those are the kinds of things that are going to really help you advance in this career. And that's what's going to set you apart from your competition, is being the most knowledgeable about your subject matter possible. So, why are we here? Congratulations! This is the first step towards taking your professional photography career to the next level. Every project you do requires some degree of pre-production. Mood boarding, building a team, scheduling, budget, and call sheets or production books. So to start off with mood boarding, a mood board is a visual presentation, or let's say a collage, of existing images, text, and samples of objects in a composition. That's like the strict dictionary definition of the word. But we're artists, we don't care about that stuff, right? These exist to communicate a sense of visual style without having to worry about being on the same page in terms of verbal communication, let's say with your client. A mood board can be as general or specific as you'd like, ranging from a loose concept down to very, very specific topics like wardrobe, lighting, posing, location. You can go as far as you want with it. It's really exciting. You can use tools like Pinterest, Behance, Google Images, Midjourney if you want an AI, Dolly, which is another AI tool, to create your mood boards. For a quick real-world example, the shoot from the cover slide, which is this shoot that I did, which was actually for Adobe as a client. You can see my mood board on the left that I created for the client that they approved of, and on the right are the final images that came out of it. And you can very clearly see the references and the inspiration between the shot of the woman sitting on the stairs, and I got my own version behind the back sitting on the stairs. But you can see there's variation in terms of the editing, the posing a little bit. The image in this mood board was just meant to communicate, I want a shot of someone sitting on a stairs and I'm behind them. And that's as vague as I wanted it to be. And I ended up doing that, but I added my own little twist. We changed the location. I shot it at the river. I have the subject more leaned back and cozy. You don't really see her face as much. I have some shots of a hero pose at the bottom of her standing triumphantly with buildings in the background. And that one I was very easily able to replicate with the shot you see in the background here, where I have all the buildings as serving as a backdrop, doing this hero pose, this very dramatic posing. So yeah, this is kind of a good real-world example of your mood board does not have to be the strict exact shots you get. They can lead you to getting these final shots that are a little different, but you can very clearly see the parallels. So when you're planning a shoot, you're probably going to want to do a treatment. In some cases, the client may request a treatment presentation in your bid against other photographers for the same job. So when a client comes to you, they're not always just coming to you. They're usually getting quotes or offers or reaching out about what it would cost to do a shoot between a number of options. Kind of like you would do with like a mechanic or a second opinion from a doctor. A treatment is essentially an extension of your mood board, but in this case it includes a lot more information about how the shoot would go if you yourself were tasked with the job. To create your own treatment, you can use tools like InDesign, Google Slides is a really popular one, PowerPoint, Pages, Keynote, some of like the basic default programs for presentations. Feel free to be creative here though and coat the treatment with your own branding. So the presentation that I'm showing you here today is very similar to how a treatment would look I have my logo at the bottom. I have my branding colors tied to every single page. I'm using my brand's fonts on every single slide. Even the shapes of the graphics kind of go along with my branding. So all this is tailored to, when I show it to a client, really remind them about what I'm about. All these things communicate my sense of style. So even when they're just reading my treatments, they're getting an idea of what I can deliver them in terms of motion, passion, energy, fun, all these things that define the work that I create for them. So the structure of your treatment is going to be and they can be varied in how long or short they are. I think 11 or 12 pages is like the minimum, and they can go upwards of like 28 I've seen, because there's a lot of information to fit in there. And when you're working on these high-profile jobs, you need to be able to communicate as much information as possible to your client so they know exactly what they're paying for. So the structure would be starting with a cover page, talking about the type of shoot that it is, the date and timing of the shoots, the concept and the message, what the goal is of the shoot for your client, the setting and location, a props or a checklist of things you will need outside of talent and location to accomplish the shoot. Your mood board will definitely be in there, casting of models, styling options, hair and makeup, and a couple other things after that we'll get into later. So one thing I want to add as a little detail is that with Google Slides is actually good because it's web-based and it will let you embed video. And people really, really like Google Slides for that reason alone. You can't really embed video into a PDF as well. So with Google Slides, you send them a link and you can embed videos so that the client, if you're proposing a motion job or if you are adding a motion component to your job, or even if you just find a video that communicates really well the visuals for what your photos will be, embedding that is really helpful. It's just making it as easy as possible on the client because they don't want to like dig through your presentation. They don't want to have to click on links. They don't have to go find stuff. You want to make it as easy as possible in them. And it's like, that's all part of the client experience. So now we're going to talk about building a team. I know some of you said you've worked with some crews, but probably not on a full-scale shoot like this. So I'm going to be telling you about a couple of team members that you might want to have in your sets when they scale up to this 5-figure level. So the first role is a producer. Have any of you worked with a producer before on your shoots? Yes, wonderful. The first person you're typically going to want to consult with on a large-scale project is a producer. A producer will take on the background logistics. They'll be a liaison to your client so that you don't have to worry about all these little things as much. Your job as a photographer is to focus on the photography. You are in charge of the visuals. You are in charge of the team that creates the visuals. And they're not hiring you because you're good at, getting permits for locations. They're not hiring you because you're good at scheduling out a shoot. I mean, these are skills that you should have, but ultimately you're getting hired because you make really, really good photos. And you make them in a timely manner that makes it as easy as possible for the client. So they're going to help you bid on your projects in some cases. So they kind of take a lot of the busy work off your hands. They can also book crew, they can coordinate meetings, and they can even, in some cases, depending on the producer you hire, they will act as a travel agent for an on-location job. So they're booking your flights, they're booking your crew's flights, so that you can really just stay focused on your specialty, which is making good photos. For every scheduled day of shooting, it is a rule of thumb that it's best to budget 1 to 3 days of pre-production for your producer, depending on the scale of the project. So if you're talking to a client and they're like, we just want a 1-day shoot, you may need to book 2 or 3 days of budget for just your producer because they're doing all this stuff in the back end days or even weeks in advance. They're booking the flights or they're calling the crew, they're creating the schedule. They're doing all this stuff on their own, usually at home or in an office, and they should be paid for that because they are working, just not on set. Their typical rate is $1,000 a day. That's just a general ballpark. It will vary depending on your market, your region, the scale of the shoot, their experience level, a number of factors. But this is kind of I'm keeping all these values close to a pretty standard range, and a lot of this information is based off of a Chicago commercial market. The next person you are probably going to reach out to is an assistant. I would hire an assistant on every single shoot I do now until the end of time. Doing shoots on your own is a thing of the past. Another team member that you're definitely going to need is an assistant, and maybe 2 or even up to 3, depending on the scale of the project. Your assistant is your right-hand person. They will be working very closely with you to make sure that you have everything you need, including setup, breakdown, testing, maintenance, and even acting as a stand-in for some of your shots. You said you do headshots. You're always going to want an assistant on a headshot job. You're going to need a stand-in no matter what. Even if you have a 15 minutes to set up, you're going to need a subject in there to make sure that your lighting is exactly where you need it to be. If you are working with multiple assistants on set, there is a hierarchical dynamic from top to bottom in terms of responsibility. So usually if you have 3 assistants on set, they are not doing the same job, and they know that. If you only have 1 assistant, the dynamic works backwards, in which they are mostly acting as a 3rd assistant. So obviously if they're the only assistant, you're not going to refer to them as a 3rd assistant, but their responsibilities do fit that of a 3rd assistant's responsibilities. A 1st assistant acts as more of a managerial role, being the liaison between you, the photographer, and your other assistants. The photographer is not talking to the 3rd assistant. The photographer is also probably not talking to the 2nd assistant either. The photographer is always talking to the 1st assistant, and they are disseminating information to the 2nd and the 3rd to make sure that the job is done. The rate for an assistant varies a lot. On the low end, $250 per day, and these days are measured in 10-hour days for reference. That also varies based on the market you're in. In LA, especially in so in the film world, their standard is 12-hour day. In LA, a photo day can still be a 12-hour day, and in New York, a photo day I think is guaranteed like a 12-hour day. So Chicago's kind of a little unique in that sense. There's 10-hour days and 12-hour days depending on market, region, and industry. But with an assistant, you're looking at a $250 a day, upwards of a $600, maybe $650 if it's like a really experienced 1st assistant. But $250 is on the low end, like what you would pay like a fresh college student, like recent grad, who like needs experience and is still learning on the job. And I know budgets can be limited, and you're probably going to be like, oh, I'll just go for the $250 one. I just need an assistant to just carry stuff, or they're a pack mule, or they're a stand-in. But a good assistant will really change your experience as a photographer. They will take a lot of things off your plate that you don't want to have to worry about as well. More experienced photographers, especially if you've been working with them long enough, will adapt to your needs. They'll be able to anticipate everything that you need. If you have a good relationship with an assistant, or even if they're experienced enough, they will be able to set up your entire light setup without you having to tell them to, so that you can spend more time talking to your client. And this is why an assistant is such a valuable asset. They make sure that you get more face time and more client interaction. So you're improving that client experience, making sure they'll hire you back, making sure their needs are met, all really, really essential things to your success as a business person. So to move forward a little bit, the next person would be a stylist. Depending on the nature of work you do, a stylist may be optional, but in anything involving people, a stylist is usually necessary. A stylist handles the wardrobe, props, or both on set. For shoots involving fashion, they will purchase multiple outfit options for all the different scenes in the mood board provided. For shoots involving products or food, they will provide their own tools and scenic materials to design your set, or even modify the object in your still life set to make sure they're as beautiful as possible to read on camera well. All forms of stylists will be paying close attention to the images that are coming out on the monitor in real time if you're shooting tethered. And usually on shoots like this, you should be shooting tethered. Headshots, fashion, still life, commercial portraiture, all those you need to shoot tethered, especially if the client's on set. They cannot look at the back of your camera. They need something in front of them that lets them get real-time feedback about what they're doing. If you do studio work, it's even an option to shoot tethered and then run a Zoom meeting so you can screen share, and your clients can even be remote, but they're still getting real-time feedback of what you're shooting. They can provide input and feedback as you're doing it, as if they were on set. That was a really popular practice during the pandemic. When you have a stylist on set, they're going to be looking at a monitor when you're shooting tethered, and they're going to be looking at all the details that you're not paying attention to, because you're focused on things like the lighting, the scene, the composition, the posing, the expressions. All these things are your focus as a photographer. You're not looking at the pockets. You're not looking at the belt making a weird shape. You're not looking at the jacket falling weird or this weird crease that's happening. That's their job, and that's what you're paying them to do. So they will jump into your set and tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, can I adjust something? Or they'll run in and they'll just sort something out really quick. They'll fix the hair up if something's falling out of place, the jewelry, the accessories. That's their responsibility, and that's where their value comes in. The rate for a stylist is going to come in at $900 to $1,000 per day. Sometimes, depending on what they're purchasing, you may need to budget that in for an extra half day of production because they will go do returns. So if it's a fashion stylist, they'll go pull all the clothes, bring them to your set. You'll try on all the outfits. They'll save the tags. Some of them have tagging guns. They can re-tag for returns. And that liability does not fall on you. Now, depending on how your relationship is and the scale of your shoot and how tight your budgets are, you may need to provide a styling budget or even just a credit card in the meantime. They'll take your card, they'll go do the buys, but they'll also do the returns for you. So you're not really losing money on that. You are assuming the liability, but it's assumed that everything will be taken care of. But their rate is $900 to $1,000 per day, plus an extra half day or full day depending on buying and returning, and you'll work that out with them directly. Another role on set is a digital tech. A digital tech is a very specialized role on set. Digitechs are tasked with managing your images in real time as they're being shot. So remember when I talked about that tethered shooting? A digitech kind of handles all that for you, so you're not worried about that. You're just directly working with the camera, taking pictures, and they show up on a monitor. They're responsible for transferring files to a computer, processing them, creating multiple backups. This could include anything from applying useful file names to the images to organizing them for the photographer and the end client. So I'm on set shooting. I hire digital tech. They are either bringing a laptop. They're using my laptop. They're bringing their own tethers. I'm bringing my own tethers. Sometimes they bring a backup camera. I'm definitely using all my cameras, unless I'm doing an on-location job and I have to rent cameras. But they can also be a consultant for those kinds of things. So if you have a digital tech on set, before the shoot, you can consult and go, hey, if you're not really a gearhead, hey, what kind of gear do you think would be best for this? What kind of bodies and lenses do you think would be most effective? Do I need to rent this laptop? Do I need to rent this laptop? What kind of monitors? How many monitors do I need? They would say how many people are on set. So the digital tech is very valuable about streamlining all the technicalities of the shoot, everything that has to do with gear and technology. Their rate is usually going to come out very low end, $500 a day. But they can go up to $2,000 a day, and that huge day rate actually comes from them supplying that gear that we talked about. So if you look online, you look up digital tech cart. Oftentimes on a set, you'll see just a giant, it's not a wagon, but it's like a table on wheels, and there's like different tiers. They have cup holders. There's some really fancy ones out there. If you get a cup holder one, you know you're working with a good digital tech. They're anticipating your needs very well. But a lot of them have their own carts. They build out these carts for just ease of use and functionality. So all you have to do is bring a camera and a laptop to set, and they have this entire cart rigged up with extension cables and adapters and docks and chargers, batteries. They have outlets on it so you can charge everything like all in one place. And they just kind of store everything. They have hard drives in there. They have backups. It's great. They will rent their own kits out to you on set for cheaper than it would cost to go out and rent all that stuff yourself. And you don't have to go get it. You don't have to return it. It's really convenient. They will build that into their day rates. Some people do things a la carte. So they're like, okay, my day rate is $650. If you want, they'll send you a menu. So they're like, I offer a cart, I offer a laptop, I offer all these backups, cameras, tools, cards, drives, everything. So that is why there's such a range. Depending on the tech you're working with, they may have their own kit, they may rent it to you, they may bill it into their own day rate, they may do it a la carte, but they give you a lot of great options. And a understood expectation of digital techs is that they are responsible for all troubleshooting on set. I mean, if it's your gear and you're familiar with it, go ahead and fix it. But if something breaks, camera's not shooting, I'm not tethering, I'm not firing, the lights aren't working, digital tech, you go fix that. I'm gonna go talk to client and distract them. That is where their main value comes in. A good digital tech has ran into the most amount of problems on set and experienced a lot of garbage and nightmare situations because they learned how to fix those bugs and troubleshoot. Next up is talent. So I know for a lot of you, the talent of your shoots is the client. But if you're working on a commercial set, you're usually going to be bringing in models, talent, castings, actors, all that stuff. So the talent is going to be the subject or the model of your image. Their job is to encapsulate the mood of your vision through their expressions, their posing, and their overall energy. A good model will do their best to fully understand the assignment and, by doing so, transform into the character that is perfect for this role. So if you're doing something like catalog, that's pretty straightforward. You're just basically a clothing hanger with a face. So it's like, look happy and wear the clothes and stand there. But if you're doing something a little more, let's say, lifestyle-y, the model is transforming into a character. You're trying to sell a lifestyle. You're trying to sell a message, a mood, an emotion, expression, a character. So your model cannot show up to set stiff, straight-faced if you're trying to sell Nike. Nike, they want focus, they want determined, they want passionate, they want drive, they want energy. You're probably not going to hire a editorial fashion model for a Nike shoot who just knows how to do this and look good and skinny. You want someone who kind of can play the part, someone who's run before, someone who likes to be active, someone who definitely participates in either sports or just general fitness activities. And a model is going to understand the assignment. They're going to show up to set and they're going to say, the stereotype is like, what is my motivation, right? You've heard that a million times in movies, but there is some truth to that. A model wants to become the character that they are playing to sell whatever you're selling. So with this example, this was an actual shoot that I did for USC Gym. It was a promotional commercial for their Market Days sale. And this subject is a personal trainer. They do a little bit of modeling, but they're not with an agency. They're not a full-time model. But they're perfect for the role because they live and breathe fitness. So when I had them doing the scene, we wrapped her up. We gave her the chalk. We set the lighting above. We had her inside the gym. And I was like, just do a minute of just rounds. Just go crazy on that bag. And I was snapping away. And she got really into it. She was determined. She's giving me the exact expression I need. She looks focused. This isn't a posed scene. I didn't say, okay, stand here, angle your body this way, put your fist into the thing, we'll sprinkle some chalk in the air and make it look like you're... No, she's actually hitting it because she knows exactly what she needs to be doing to sell the idea of what UFC Gym has to offer. A great space that lets you really get into your workout and focus. The rates for models does vary a lot too. It's going to be somewhere around $500 to $1,500 a day. This is very strictly speaking on a Chicago term. That will change a lot depending on California or New York. And in addition to that, one thing that no one says and no one talks about is the agency fee. So if you ever go to a modeling agency and you're going to hire a model, they're going to tell you what their rate is for the model, and you're going to budget that in. But they don't tell you is that they're also going to charge you 20% of that value for the agency on top of that. So you need to be proactive and include that in your budgets. No one's going to tell you about that, because if you don't budget it in, and I say I have a $1,500 model or a $1,000 model for the day, when you get the invoice, it's going to say $1,200. And you're going to say, where does this come from? And they're going, it's the agency fee. Everyone knows about that. Not everyone knows about that, but you do now. So where can we find our team? Going back to your question from earlier. There's a couple levels. I mean, this is true for everything, and this isn't really advanced advice, but if you really think about it in a simplistic way, this is how everything kind of shakes out. You start with your inner circle. Your inner circle consists of people that you already know personally. Perhaps you already know someone who models for fun in their personal time, or a close friend that is willing to assist you on a shoot in exchange for lunch, or maybe just a little bit of advice or education. If you find a recent college grad, you could say, hey, I've been working for this long. I have these kinds of clients. I need an assistant for a headshot job. The budget's super low. I could give you a stipend of maybe like $50, $75, $100 for the day, but you'll get great experience out of it. And if that's your value proposition, that's great. Don't feel bad about that. Value comes in many forms, and it's up to them whether they accept it or not. But this is where all of us start. We start with people we know. Even in this shoot, like I said, this is not a professional model. This is a personal trainer that's just based locally here in Chicago. She's perfect for the role because she lives it and we trust her. But that is your inner circle, and that's where you're always going to start. Call around. Referrals are great too. And that leads us to our outer circle. The outer circle can include referrals from your contacts that you trust or people that you've worked with in the past. So you're surrounded by photographers. If you need a producer, ask everyone, have you ever worked with a producer before? Ask some of the speakers, have you worked with a producer before? Who are your producers? Can I call them? Can I get their info? Feel free to get as many referrals as you can for a project so you have backup options in case schedules change. It's good to have a wide network because you can pull from anywhere at any time. And it's also good if people owe you favors. So it's very controversial to say don't do free work or do free work, but the more favors that people owe you, the better position you're going to be in when you need one. That leads me to the extended network. So if you can't find anyone through these things, this group includes people that are at least 2 or more degrees removed from you. You might have to look through directories, online portfolios, and cold call agencies to be able to get these kinds of contacts on board. Typically, the farther you get from your inner circle, the more these people will cost to hire. So you can't call a modeling agency and say, hey, can I give you a stipend and you'll get some experience out of it. You're going to need to pay them usually a full rate. Some people can be understanding of budgets. If you're new to the scene and you find let's say a digital tech who's got a little bit of experience, but let's say they're short on work right now. I mean, July was kind of a rough month for everybody. Say, hey, I'm kind of new. I want to work with a digital tech. I've never worked with them before. The budget for the shoot is this much. I can afford you a $450 day rate. Would you take it? If business is slow, they'll probably take it. And you can learn a lot from them when you're on set. Plus, it always helps to build those relationships. You can go into it in good faith and say, hey, I know I don't have a lot of money I know I don't have a lot of money right now, but I have this shoot coming up, I have this shoot coming up, and I have this shoot coming up. If this works out well, I promise you I will hire you in all these shoots that allow budget for this kind of thing. And they'll recognize that. If they're too busy, you have to be understanding of that. But a really key point in all this, with all these crew members or hiring anyone in general, is you go into it with good faith. You're not trying to exploit anyone's labor. You're not trying to, get a one-off on someone and make away with it. That's not going to keep you in business for long. And if you screw over any of these people, they all talk. Digital techs talk, models talk. You'll get a rep. No one's going to want to work with you. So it's all about establishing good relationships with your crew. The most successful photographers in any market leave a good impression on people. So be good to your team. That will take you a long way. That's the number one advice that I keep getting all the time, even still. Be good to your team. So let's get into how we can actually put this into action. There are a couple tools that you can use to build your team. The first one I would go to is industry directories. So a directory, as we know, it's like a phone book, but more specialized. There's a couple of those you can find. Workbook is a really good one to start with. It's super local. There's another one called Lebook, L-E, book, and another one called @Edge. I'm mostly familiar with Workbook and Lebook. I haven't done a lot of stuff with @Edge, but I know it's another just directory available to you. This will give you a pool of photographers working in advertising, fashion, etc. So if you want to kind of assist yourself and get like an eye on set and kind of get more experience on set without having to run into a big at-risk job, I would highly recommend assisting for photographers that are listed in these directories, or at least talking with them, meeting with them, trying to get as much information as you can because they have the experience that you're going to want and need. The second one is rental house directories. So if any of you is anyone local to Chicago? Okay, perfect. So you might have heard of Dodd Camera or Pro Gear or Film Gear. This is where you can find assistants and sometimes even stylists. So if you go on their websites, they have a tab for these people. They have their own like internal directories. Another tool that you can use to build your team is agencies. There's plenty of agencies, and there's plenty of agencies for everything. Some examples include Lab Artists, which is a local one. There's The Rock Agency, not affiliated with Dwayne Johnson. Select, and Big Mouth Talent. So Lab will give you fashion stylists and prop stylists, also makeup artists. The Rock Agency and Select will give you models talent. Big Mouth Talent will give you actors, I think. They lean more towards actors or like regular looking talent, not like fashion models. And even food stylists you can find through some of these agencies. Another tool just for general purpose that lets you kind of bring that extended network down to your outer circle are photography organizations. ClickCon, I don't necessarily think is an organization, but things like conferences like this where you can meet people and get all those references from are really, really valuable. So if there's a team member that you're looking for, just ask everyone you meet this week. Just producer. Something will come up. Or even if they don't have one, they might know someone that has one. People are very willing to offer their people up because when someone gives you a referral, not only does it help the people that they care about finding work, it also makes them look good. And you're probably going to return the favor at some point when they need a referral. So yeah, photography organizations will give you everything you need. Some include APA, which is the American Photography Association, ASMP, which is the American Society of Midwest Photographers, and PPA, which is the Professional Photographers Association. APA is national, but it has regional chapters. ASMP is regional, and PPA is national with chapters, but they're more leaning on the national side. They do large groupings all over the country instead of like regional meetings. So it is time to almost shoot. We've already done all this work. We haven't even picked up a camera yet. So this is the amount of work that goes into preparing a shoot. You've mood boarded, you've kind of concepted an idea of a shoot. I want to shoot outdoor fitness shoot. I need to build a team. You get a producer and they call everyone, or you spend an entire week just calling people and be like, assistant, digital tech, stylist, fashion wardrobe, hello, producer. Emailing people, waiting for people to get back to you, figuring out dates. Oh, I think we're going to shoot this on like August 15th. I'm not available. All right, another tech. I'm not available. Okay, another tech. Or even when you reach out to someone and they're not available, they can offer you referrals because they know the most amount of people because those are their peers. You know, I used to be an assistant for a while when I was fresh out of school, and my entire graduating class was looking for assisting work. If I wasn't available for something, oh, my friend this, my friend this, my friend this. I have 10 different people that could assist for this job and do a good job. So if you find someone, just know that they link into a bunch of other very good leads. This might be really hard to read, so I'll try to zoom in for you guys, but now we have to do a creative brief. So one thing that I am going to offer this class that's not actually in the course description is we're going to talk a little about some AI tools. How many of you heard of ChatGPT? Do you know what ChatGPT is?
Yes, I know. I didn't use it, but yes.
Okay, so it's basically just a text generator. It reads text and it figures out what text usually goes after the other text. So one thing I like to use ChatGPT for creatively is just concepting your ideas, just figuring out loose concepts. So I gave ChatGPT a prompt and I said, generate a creative brief for a fitness fashion photo shoot. The client must be a real-world fitness brand. The deliverables will strictly be 10 final images to be used on the company's website and social media platforms. The talent will be a female subject. The budget for the project is limited to $12,000. So you can feed it as much or as little as you want. With these kinds of prompts, the more detailed you get, the better results you're going to get out of it. But I kind of just thought of a general guideline for a shoot, or at least what my limitations are, and then fed it into the software. So this is what it came out for me. The objective of this fitness fashion photo shoot is to capture compelling and engaging images that showcase XYZ Fitness brand's latest collection of activewear for female athletes. The images will be used on the company's website and various social media platforms to promote the brand's products and will inspire a healthy and active lifestyle. The overall aim is to create visually stunning visuals that resonate with the target audience and enhance brand awareness. Now I know as photographers, that sounds like a whole bunch of nothing. That's just words. That's like lawyer talk or like legalese. But ultimately what this is saying is that we're going to do a shoot. We're going to shoot a female for a activewear clothing line for XYZ Fitness brand. It's going on their website, and we just want to make good pictures. So to give us more information, we need a target audience. The target audience for this fitness brand is active women aged 18 to 35 who are passionate about fitness and prioritize a healthy lifestyle. They are fashion-conscious individuals who seek stylish and functional activewear that empowers them to perform at their best. So now we're starting to get a little more creative ideas. You know, okay, well, empowerment, we've got some conceptual ideas that we need to translate in our visuals here. We have female activewear, empowerment, got it. The deliverables, we already kind of put that in. Usually with your deliverables on a higher end, they actually go down to cut cost. The more deliverables you have, the more expensive the shoot's going to be because they're paying for the shoot, but they're also paying for the output. So per picture is definitely a thing that's charged. The project requires a creation of 10 final high-resolution images. These images should showcase the brand's activewear collection in a variety of fitness-related scenarios, capturing the spirit of determination, strength, and confidence. The final images should be optimized for use on the company's website and social media platforms. So that gives us a lot of information about what this is going to look like. All these pieces come together to really complete what you know you have to do. So now we have women aged 18 to 35, passionate about fitness, prioritize health. They're fashion conscious, which means the clothes need to look really good. We're doing a variety of fitness-related scenarios. So we might need to do an on-location shoot. We can't do this in the studio. We need variety in what we're seeing. Or we can composite, but you're still going to need different backdrops for this scene. We're going to need different poses because that's where that variety comes in. So maybe we do some shots on some stairs. Maybe we do some shots on some concrete. Maybe we do some in a park on grass. We're playing with textures. We're playing with scenes. We're playing with movements, poses. So this is starting to really shape up what we're doing creatively just based on the logistics of the shoot. To take it a step further, We have a location. We're going to do an urban fitness environment, like an outdoor park that reflects the brand's contemporary and energetic vibe. So another thing to keep in mind, we're getting tons of great adjectives just from ChatGPT's logistics prompt. The company is telling us what to do. Usually in a creative brief, the company will provide this information to you. You as artists, without like these clients doing all this work for you, need to kind of go out and do this stuff on your own in the form of test shoots. And I know for me, I personally really struggle with just creating these like prompts or like assignments in my head for myself. It's like, there's too many options. I don't know what to create. I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. What's the right answer? The answer is there is no right answer, or all of them are the right answer. But that's why I really like ChatGPT, because it helps me narrow down my focus and it just generates a prompt for me without me having to like choose from options. So we can use all of these adjectives that it's feeding us into our mood boards. So we're taking it back to that first step and going, okay, energetic, passionate, health conscious, feeding those into Pinterest or feeding those into Google Images. Be like, okay, what does a model who's health conscious looks like? And it gives you a bunch of different visuals there. What does an energetic photo shoot look like? Then Pinterest gives us a bunch of options here. And then this all leads to the inspiration that we bring to the shoot, because we get to make these decisions as the directors. So now for the styling, the talent should be styled in a mix of XYZ fitness brand's latest collection, combining different activewear pieces such as leggings, sports bras, tank tops, and jackets. So that just solves a huge logistics problem for us. It's already decided these are the exact pieces we're selling. So now we can go to Nike, we go to Lululemon, we can go buy all these things, pull them, shoot the model in them. We get to choose all the colors. We get to choose, how these colors or what kind of styles fit into the environment of an urban fitness environment. Outdoor park fits into that. So if I'm shooting in a park, probably not going to buy a neon pink sports bra. I'm going to go for something earth tone. I'm going to go for something that maybe complements those natural colors of those sands. The outfits should be fashionable, functional, and represent the brand's commitment to quality and performance. That kind of means nothing but ChatGPT. Props and accessories incorporate relevant fitness props such as resistance bands, exercise mats, and water bottles to add authenticity and enhance the overall fitness narrative. So now we're not just shooting a model on a backdrop. We are creating a story here. We have a person, we have a place, we have a thing. Those are the three essential components to telling a full story. That's what gives us context. And that's what lifestyle is all about. Lifestyle is all about selling context. So what we're going to be doing is going out and buying some clothes. We're going to go out and buy some accessories. We're going to go find a model. We're going to go location scouting. We're going to walk around the city or walk around wherever we're at. We're going to drive around and find really beautiful scenic areas that we know we can shoot in. And then we're going to put all these things together and really tell the story of this brand, which was capturing the spirit of determination, strength, and confidence. So, lighting and mood. Utilize natural lighting whenever possible to create a fresh and vibrant atmosphere. I did not really direct the lighting in the prompt that much. That kind of figured out on its own because it knows that it decided we're going to be shooting in an outdoor natural location. So, utilize natural lighting whenever possible to create a fresh and vibrant atmosphere. Enhance the mood through strategic lighting techniques that accentuate the talent's physique and bring attention to the clothing details. All this is really making sense. This is not anything that's like reinventing the wheel. It's just we're selling the clothes, we're making the model look good in the clothes, but we're also telling the story around the clothing, the location, and the props. So the budget for this project is limited to $15,000. Have any of you done a shoot that cost $15,000 yet? Well, we're going to today. This budget should cover all of your expenses, including talent fees, location, rental, styling, hair and makeup, photography equipment, props, and post-production editing. That's going to be the juicy part. So I want you guys to go in your journals and write me a small, simple treatment talking about the type of shoot you want to do, the date, the concept, the setting, the location, props if you need them. If you can, go on your phone or your laptop and go on Pinterest and make a quick mood board. It doesn't have to be very advanced. Models, if you need them, just go on the Rocks website and just screenshot a model that you want for it. And then styling, hair, and makeup we don't really have to do right now for the exercise, but definitely type of shoot, date, concept message, setting, props, if applicable. make a small mood board, and then find a model for it. So I'll give you guys 15 minutes to work on that in the meantime, and this will be like a short intermission. So using the notes you took from all the independent roles, all the crew members, all that stuff, all those figures I've given you so far, and all the expectations that we've set up, build a budget for this shoot. And I'd be happy to clarify anything or go back to other slides about what stuff costs. It's assuming it's a one-day shoot, 10 hours, here in Chicago, in a public place like a park or an urban environment. One model for XYZ fitness brand, Nike, Lululemon, insert whoever you want, doesn't matter. It doesn't change what this is going to cost us to do. The brand reveal, budget. Budgeting can seem scary at first, but like any other skill, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So this is a great exercise for you guys, and I would encourage you to continue to do this with as many test shoots or personal projects you make. If you come up with an idea and you want to shoot it just for fun, budget it out in a real world scenario. Or if you do have a personal shoot and you end up spending money on it, keep track of all those expenses. So if a client comes to you saying, hey, I want to do this kind of shoot, like if they're using your own portfolio as a reference, if you shoot like a fashion shoot or if you shoot like a senior or something and they're like, oh, I love this concept. Let me see, you got like confetti or something, or you went to a location, you got this big setup installation built. And they're like, I want to do exactly that. I love your work with this client. I want to do mine. You know exactly what that costs to do, and you can give them a quote right away. So budgeting is a skill in and of itself. You will get better at it the more you do it. Whenever an estimate is approved by a client, hold on to it for future reference when budgeting other similar projects. The first place to usually start is with your crew, including yourself. Don't forget to budget yourself in. I've seen it done before. Your day rate is up to you, but a fair rate at an introductory level is about $750 to $1,500 a day. It can go more than this. I know photographers. The pharmaceutical industry is crazy. They have disgusting amounts of money, and they have a lot of regulations, which increases the value of those kinds of jobs. If you're shooting for a pharmaceutical company, you have to abide by a lot of rules, and you get paid for abiding by all those rules. I know photographers in this city that I've worked for who, no joke, have been paid $10,000 day rates for week-long jobs. $50,000 from a single client, just for the photographer. That doesn't even include production expenses for a 5-day shoot. This all sounds very nice, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of this in a second. Your days are budgeted at 10-hour days. You don't get paid overtime usually, but your crew definitely does. And on a lot of jobs, like with your dance shoot example, 10-hour day, but it seems like there's a lot of moving parts. You probably want to budget in some overtime. It's safe to budget 2 hours of overtime to almost all of your shoots that are going to be like a big production, with the understanding your client going, okay, this is the overtime budget. If we do hit overtime, this is what it'll cost. But if we don't hit overtime, we will save money on this. And then that will encourage them to wrap the shoot up as fast as possible so they're not wasting anyone's time. This comes out to $75 to $150 an hour, which is still pretty considerable for the kind of work that we get to do. $150 an hour to do fun, creative work. I know it's not always fun, but you're still doing your passion. That's great. We can use other rates provided in our earlier slides to continue to build out a budget. So here's what I have. I have a producer for $1,000 a day, 2 days of pre-production plus the shoot. Also remember that in our prompt, we wanted to keep the budget to $15,000. I came out to $16,200. So I'm glad we're all in a ballpark, but I want to make sure that the ways that we got there are pretty consistent. So a producer for 2 days of pre-production plus the shoot is $1,000 a day. That's $3,000 off the bat. That is going to be like our biggest expense for sure. Next is a stylist. I budgeted in a stylist at $1,000 a day, and they are getting a prep day, a shoot day, and a return day. So that's 3 days of $1,000 day rates. The retouching, I am billing $200 per image at 10 images. That comes out to $2,000 just for retouching. The talent, I came in at the high end of $1,500 plus the agency fee takes us up to $1,800. The photographer, me, my creative fee will be $1,500 because this is going to be for a Nike or a Lulu. I want a pretty up there rate to make sure that I'm not budgeting myself out of a job, undervaluing myself, because that's another issue people have. I can't charge them a $500 day rate. They're not going to take me seriously. The digital tech we hired is going to cost $1,250 plus we're renting a cart fee. $1,250, including their cart budgeted in. So it's like a $650 day rate, $700 day rate, plus an extra, was it $500 or so, give or take, for their cart rental. I'm going to add $100 to that as padding. So that's another thing that you're going to have to do in your budgets. Always pad your budgets. Find out what the rates for everything actually are, and then just throw money in there so that you can take it away later when the client inevitably says that's too much. The equipment rental, I came out for a full kit, and I went on Dot and I built a full rental kit for this. So these are actually really real world numbers of what a rental kit would be: camera, lighting, stands, sandbags, cards, drives. That came out to $645. I padded it in an extra $155 to get it to a nice even number. So like these are added on top of these values. They're not included in these values. So the rental budget would be $800. And then the tech would be $1,350. Wardrobe and props, I budgeted for $500. The first assistant's going to be $500. The second assistant's going to be $400. I'm padding them $50. I'm not paying them the extra $50 though. That's just padding. So the digital tech is actually going to make $1,250, but I'm telling the client it's going to cost $1,350. The rental's actually going to cost me $645, but I'm telling the client it's going to be $800. And either I'm going to pocket that, or that's going to go into other parts of the budget that I need to supplement. The catering, who considered eating and food for the crew? So we're no one's eating on set. Got a 10-hour day, no one's eating. By 3 o'clock, people are just passing out on set. Your client has been running upstairs and doing sprinting movements. They're having a heart attack on set. They can't survive. Someone's diabetic. Their sugar level's dropping. There's no granola bars for them to eat. Location permit. One day, a location permit's probably going to cost me $250 for the day. I'm padding that for sure. So that's an extra $50 in there. So how are we getting the shoot? How are we getting gear to the shoot? Got to get a truck. Got to get a van. The best advice I will ever give to anyone doing on-location work is there's like companies for this, especially like production companies, like Elite Truck Rental is a really popular one that people use here in Chicago for their productions. It's $175 a day for a van. I'm not doing that. U-Haul, Penske, $60 a day, plus like a little bit of gas. $60 a day. And Penske has those tall vans that you can stand up in, like full-size height vans. You can put a C-stand in there straight up, mount them to the wall, clip them to the wall. You get a whole production van for super cheap. And you don't need certificates of insurance to go with them. They'll give a van to whoever. They'll give a van to an 18-year-old. They don't care. So truck rental for 2 days. I'm doing like the cheap route because that's something I can kind of save budget on. So $150 for 2 days. I got to pick up the van, hold it for a day, take it to the shoot. That's assuming I bring the van back on the day we finish the shoot, which isn't an issue. I can do it, 10-hour day, bring all the rental gear back that same day, return the van at night, go home, finish the day. I'm padding that for sure, $50. You can even charge the client full rate, and that could be your padding. So tell your client, I'm going to Elite. That costs $175 a day. We need $300 for a truck. And then go get a Penske anyway. Doesn't matter. And then expendables. This is kind of like a miscellaneous tab. This is another budget padding technique. But you never know what you're going to need. You got to go get waters. You got to get snacks. You got to go get gaff tape. You got to go get memory cards. You got to, just random expenses that could come up on set that you're not expecting. So that's another budget pad right there. And my total comes out to $16,200. So
do you show your client the detail list or just the final?
I would give the client this itemization exactly here. Obviously not showing them padding. I would add those in. This is just for your visual, but these would be added into these totals, and this is exactly what I would show the client. Because they're going to come back and say, our budget's $15,000. How are you going to get this within budget? And I'm going to say, okay, I can take $100 out of here. I could take some money out of the equipment rental. I could probably come down on the second assistant a little bit. We can save a little bit money on the location permit if we do this, this, or this, or if we shoot in this location, we'll save money. Giving them options. I can modify the truck rental logistics. I could cut that back by a day. We'll save $50. We'll save $100 on the truck rental. Or I'll move to a different company. You were going to do that anyway. They say, oh, I was going to get an Elite. I'll get a Penske. That'll work just fine. And then you cut that budget down. And then through these methods, we cut out 100, 155, 50. So that cuts out, let's see, 100, 200, something like in the ballpark of $500 we're going to save on our padding. We could even take out a little expendable, so maybe like 600. So now this 16,200 goes down to 15,600, 700. And look, it's $700 over budget, but when you're dealing with a scale this size, go, look, I'm coming in a little over budget, but this is really what we need to accomplish this shoot. This is where you really sell them on it. Like $700 budget to a company like Nike. You know. But you say, I was able to get down to 15.7, and they go, okay, we can make this work. You're still making all the money you want to make. And you're looking good because you're selling the idea that you're saving them costs when you actually knew that it was going to cost 15.7 the whole time. But everyone does this. Everyone pads their budgets. You need to put stuff in because the companies are always, your clients are always going to want to cut back. So you just got to give them stuff to cut back on because you know they want to do it anyway. At the end of the day, I'm in a couple meetings with a client beforehand, and I'm maybe calling crew, but my producer is probably calling crew. If I'm giving my producer $3,000, they're calling crew. Yeah. They're doing all this for me. Yeah. All I'm doing is showing up on the day of the shoot with an idea in my mind of what the client wants, and I'm like dealing with clients over email and calls and meetings, but whatever, that's passive, that's assumed. I'm showing up on the day of the set. My assistants are building my lighting for me already. I'm just talking to the client. I'm schmoozing them, I'm talking about what we're going to be doing, I'm preparing stuff mentally. A camera's put in my hand at like 10 o'clock, and I'm just shooting. My producer taps me on the shoulder, goes, hey, we have to break for lunch, or hey, we need to fit in these shots, or hey, the schedule's this, we need to fit this in. And you go, okay, and then I'm like, okay, we need to get this many shots, we need to do this, we need to make sure we get this in. Bam, 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 shot. Lunch, you're talking to the client some more, making sure they're happy, satisfying their needs. It's all about vibes or the customer experience. Your job as the photographer is to make good pictures, but your real job is to make sure the customer has a good experience on set, and it's assumed you're going to give them a good product.
Especially with all those people.
Mm-hmm. And that's what helps you get that good product. You know, good assistants are going to give you good lighting, or at least good direction for your assistants are going to give you good lighting. You know, you got to know the lighting. Mm-hmm. Some assistants know lighting enough to just know what you're going to do already, or you say, oh, we're doing this kind of scene. They're like, okay, backlight it, fill light it, bounce board, done. But all these people make sure that what you're doing is showing up to set, shooting, making sure the client has a good experience, and going home.
And not micromanaging. So.
Some people, it's a preferential thing, but like ideally you wouldn't have to. But you're showing up for a day of shooting. Yeah. Shooting for a couple hours, having lunch, shooting for a couple hours, going home. Yeah. Because guess what? Your first assistant is bringing the van back, or your first and second assistant are bringing the equipment rental back, and they're bringing the van back. So you are really just going straight home from set. So you're shooting for 10 hours minus an hour of lunch, minus an hour of makeup. You're shooting for 8 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's your whole job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for $1,500,
yeah.
that comes out to like $200 an hour, just to shoot.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you own the product. I mean, the client gets usage, but you own the product. You can use those pictures to market yourself and get more clients through that. So this is a very unique position we're in that's very, very advantageous. Another thing I want to mention that is not on here is usage. That's another thing to talk about. That's a huge factor. You can charge a lot of money for usage. The $10,000 a day rate I was talking about, that had usage factored into the day rate, which was what was able to inflate it so much. So that is a line item we did not include, and that topic on its own is enough to cover an entire class that I don't really feel fully prepared to get into right now. But what you can do is factor usage into your day rate. So, and a lot of photographers do it. So if you want to say you're comfortable charging $750 for a day because you're new and inexperienced to this kind of world of shooting, bump your day rate up to $1,250 or $1,500 and tell your clients that the initial usage is packed into that. My day rate is $1,500, but that includes our initial terms of usage, which is a 1-year web and social use. Then after that, you can negotiate for additional usage for an additional year. It'll cost this much per year, you know, and that's up to you. And that's a conversation that a producer will do a really good job of helping you out with, because producers know usage pretty well.
Okay. That's good.
So how would you determine how many assistants you need?
That is a good question. That is something that comes from experience, and that's why I advocate for assisting a lot. So I have assisted on shoots that have just me as the assistant, and I've assisted on shoots where I'm the third assistant. The scale is wildly different, and it's hard to make that call unless you know, like unless you've been there. So try to shadow on shoots that have multiple assistants, or try to be a third assistant. That's always a good way. Usually if you're starting out as an assistant, you're going to be a third assistant. So no matter what, the jobs you're getting are going to be on that scale because you're such a small part of the entire process that you kind of bring in low risk as an inexperienced person. Typically, shoots that run for multiple days will have multiple assistants because those are guaranteed to have a lot of moving parts. Someone has to get the van, someone has to be in charge of this, someone has to be in charge of this. And then across multiple days, that just gets bigger and bigger. So that is a very nuanced question. But yeah, I think just being on sets that have that, you'll see it for yourself and you'll get a good sense of what that's like.
Will the producer also deal with if like one of the assistants is sick and getting
Yes.
like another person?
Yes,
Okay.
their job is logistics through and through. They, in the same way that the digital techs are the ones who troubleshoot all of the equipment, the producer troubleshoots all the logistics.
Okay.
The photographer is not going to be desperately calling around for assistance. The producer should have a backup or at least a reference that they could call or a list that they could call and just get names.
Okay.
So if you're doing a shoot that the client wants both photo and video, you probably want to bring in a DP or director of photography to handle the video aspect of it. But if you're doing that, you as the photographer are still the director, which means you are taking the photos and directing the photos. You are also directing the video, but someone else is shooting video.
Okay. How would you break up the schedule for that?
For what?
For
Photo and video?
Yeah.
It's tough, is the real answer. It's really hard. I've done shoots. I haven't hired a DP to handle both motion and video, but I've done shoots where I've done both photo and video. And I've been the DP on those sets before, and you need a really good producer. Like, if you're doing both photo and video, you need a producer. Hands down. I've tried doing without. It's awful. It's so hard. And a producer is going to be kind of like your advocate for both sides. They're a very neutral party because they want to get the job done. Because you care for me doing the video. I care about the video. The video is my baby. That's all I care about. I don't own the photos. I'm not going to be marketing the photos. But the photographer feels the same way about the other end. The video is secondary. My photos are what's important. This is what matters. This is what the shoot's about. The producer is going to come in and say, hey, did you get all the shots you need? Do I need to cut this short? Do we have enough time budgeted for your thing? And the same thing on the photographer's side. They are your middleman to make sure that both sides are treated fairly and get what they need done. So producers are really, really, really helpful in that respect. And a good producer will help you schedule that out well. And also, a good DP will know how much time they need to get the job done too. That's another thing. When I was DPing on that job, I was talking to the photographer and I was talking to the producer and I was like, I need this much time because I need these shots and I know exactly what I need to do. So it's all about experience.